Welcome to Theory of Conspiracy. A couple of northern lads from the UK discuss plots, cover-ups, and the unexplainable.
Hi, I'm Andy the Skeptic.
Hello, I'm Carlos. I believe.
If you would like to support the podcast, please talk about this with your friends or give us a review on iTunes. You can comment or contribute at TheoConPod, that's at TheoConPod, or check the link in the podcast description.
Oh, 1 second. 1 second, my brother's ringing. Matt? Dude, can I call you later? I'm just recording a podcast. Alright, cheers man, see you later, bye. Any bloopers or funny bits, they all go at the front of the podcast anyway, so people are going to hear your voice before you've had an intro.
Because I'll be saying all the funny bits.
Possibly, that's normally what happens,
Just to be safe, should we just mute his channel the whole way through?
No, no. We find it best if you just leave it on. Just don't try and mute yourself or self edit yourself.
No. What Ricky said to me, we should just mute Carlos all the way. That's what he just said.
Oh, sorry. Well, yeah, that could be the future of the podcast. Yeah.
I'm staying at your house tonight, Andy, and I've got my Geiger counter.
Right. Welcome back. What? He's just trying to speak over me.
Straight in the syllable interrupted.
Knowledgeable, I'd question that. It's funny, but you did make someone cry, Carlos. So
I did make someone cry. It's usually when I make girls cry, it's usually Saturday night. Leave me alone. Stop following me.
Put that knife down. So the rhinoceroses are it's hard to say that, isn't it? Rhinoceroses.
Cool.
I'm getting, now I'm rethinking all the identifying factors about me. I'm from Rochdale, I'm a United fan, I've got a best friend called Scott, people are putting together who I am.
Yeah, you're gonna have Carlos fans literally knocking on your door.
All four of them.
I got released and then I ran out the house. I literally ran out the house in my pajamas kind of thing.
If I find out that Becky Twat killed him.
If I was to wake you up in the morning and I started singing a nice lullaby, you'd wake up. So if I started...
I love it when you do that, Carlos.
Don't forget you can leave us a review on iTunes and we will mention it on the show, or send us an audio message to get your voice on air. You can ask us or say anything you like. Check out the links on our social media for our merch store. Each purchase will contribute 50 pence towards supporting the podcast. Also, subscribing to our YouTube and Twitch channels, or sharing this podcast with friends is very much appreciated.
Listen up, this is the main bit.
Welcome back, or if it's your first time here, thanks for stopping by. For this podcast, we've got another guest episode to discuss cursed films. Don't forget to check out our Facebook for our Season 2 competition, or to contribute to the podcast. I've actually got a review I want to read out. If you want to leave us a review or send us an audio message, we'll air it on the podcast. So what are you waiting for? Do you want me to send Carlos round with a begging letter? So this is a review we've had on iTunes. It was a 5-star review, and it's from Daryl URQ. A real hidden gem of a podcast. The guys are funny, relatable, and knowledgeable. Very good. Knowledgeable? I'd question that. But hey. I agree with the rest of
it. I like it.
You would like it. The knowledgeable obviously doesn't refer to you, Carl.
He's probably that's the bit he's referring to me.
Okay, before we jump into the interview, you might have noticed that the regular bi-weekly release of episodes, and if you follow us on Twitch, we haven't been on for a few weeks. This is because life sometimes throws you a curveball, and at the moment I'm juggling a few things, so hopefully we'll get things back to the usual rhythm, and I'll probably give you an update once I'm through the other side of what's been going on, but I'll probably save that for the Twitch guys rather than the podcast. Okay, guest time. So we're recording on the 31st of March 2021, and I'd like to welcome our special guest for this episode. Some people say he's got the royal seal of approval and that he has a tattoo of Alex Ferguson on his inner thigh. All we know is that we've got 3 yes or no questions so our listener can gauge your tinfoil hat rating on a scale of 0 to 10. So here we go. Was 9/11 an inside job?
Oh, straight in there. No.
Well done. Did we land on the moon?
Yes.
Do you believe aliens in spaceships have visited the Earth?
I mean, for conspiracy points, I'm going to say yes because I do believe in aliens, and I'd like to think. I think I'd like to say yeah. I want to say yeah. Yeah, so I'll say
Okay,
yeah.
all right. I might give you a bonus.
Good.
I might give you a
Good. I
bonus
like that.
point for that then. So you've scored 4 out of 10, so not bad.
Oh, okay.
So bearing in mind you've got 4 out of 10, and that this podcast literally gets 4 listeners a week, do you want to tell us who you are and what you do, or do you want to remain anonymous?
No, I'm very happy to introduce myself. My name is Rick Redman. I am I'm Carlos's friend. We've been on a couple of lads' holidays together, so
Yeah.
we know each other quite well. I work in marketing. I'm a marketing professional. I used to be a journalist, which was quite an interesting career. I live in Macclesfield with my wife and baby son, but I'm from Rochdale, so I've only just moved to Macclesfield recently in the last couple of months. And yeah, I suppose that's the crux of who I am.
Nice one. I don't think anyone's been that eager or willing to share that much
I'd
information about
like
them so soon.
I like to add. I like to add a little bit to that because what Ricky said is 100% correct. But there's a bit you missed out. It's like I showed him a tweet between us before we knew who we were. So
Oh yeah,
we were having a heated debate, and we were being very sarcastic to each other, and about football. It was probably daft o'clock in the morning. We were probably drinking, and I think United probably had a difficult match, and I was probably being aggressive, and probably mine and Rick's views were totally polar from United. And I just says, "Is that your Twitter handle?" He goes, and I went back to like 2010 or something like that. He goes, "That's us arguing at daft o'clock in the morning." He goes, "Oh yeah, it is." So
I remember that. Were we in Manchester House when we had that conversation, or were we in Coco's?
We're probably in Coco's. I think it might
We
have
were
been
in
in Coco.
Coco's. I remember you bringing it up. Yeah,
Yeah,
I forgot all about that.
yeah. It just says I think we knew each other before we knew each other because we used to. We're both passionate footballers, football fans, and full of football. But we sometimes we were being very sarcastic. We weren't being derogatory to each other, but we were being very sarcastic to each other on
I
Twitter.
think it was
But
from the early days. I think it was from the early-ish days of Twitter. Certainly early compared
yeah,
to now, where people were kind of just getting to grips with that kind of
yeah,
anonymity. You used to presenting yourself, and the things that
yeah.
you say have the consequences
In,
of
in
this.
my early
You're a
days,
person,
I
and
didn't have a
that is now something you've said.
I
But
never had a profile picture or anything. I don't think you had a profile picture, so it was just literally you could be anyone, couldn't you? Because I never used my name Carlos Garcia, so I used like my pseudonym name. So you could say absolutely anything to each other. So
yeah,
that's
I
how
think
me
I
and Rick
think I was the same.
through the social media world.
So, Rick, can you tell us something interesting about yourself that maybe only one or a few people might know about you?
Yes, I once and yeah, listen carefully to this because I will say it only once, but I once pleasured a rhinoceros.
A real rhinoceros.
Yep, I was just gonna let that linger, but I suppose I do need to go into detail, don't
Is this Carlos's nickname?
I?
Carlos the Rhino.
That wouldn't be a bad nickname for Carlos, or maybe hippopotamus.
Oh
Um,
dear.
yeah, so as I mentioned before, I used to be a journalist, and many years ago now. And when I was a journalist, we had a zoo that was on our patch. So it was a local newspaper that I worked for, and there was a zoo that was nearby. And every time they had, a new baby being born, I'd make an excuse to go down there because obviously it's a zoo, it's cool. And over the couple of years I was there, they knew me as the local reporter, so they knew they could rely on me to follow up on a press release and stuff like that. I mean, the boring council meetings and stuff, I maybe wouldn't follow up on them as much as a new, meerkat being born or something. I'd be straight down there if that happened. But so in the end, they started doing one of those red letter days where it was, be a zookeeper for a day, where they charge people. I think it was a few £100, and they get to be shown the ropes of what it takes to be a zookeeper. And what they wanted me to do was go down and do like a video feature. And I think the footage exists somewhere, not of me pleasuring the rhino, but footage exists of me doing this feature for this newspaper. And they took me down and they had me mucking out the elephants, feeding the meerkats, doing loads of cool stuff, feeding chimpanzees. And then they took me into the bit where the rhinoceroses are. So the rhinoceroses are it's hard to say that, isn't it? Rhinoceroses are outside, and they've got like a nice area outside, but they also have a bit inside where it's warmer, it's sheltered, and it's this massive building. I was like really surprised how big the building was, but that's where the bull was, who they use for the breeding program. And as I was like there as a journalist, and I was there kind of as a guest, really, I wasn't a paying customer. The zookeeper, the real zookeeper, said to me, "Oh, do you want to see something cool?"
That's what he says to all the young boys.
Yeah, and I was like, obviously. So she said, "Oh, let me show you how we kind of prepare the rhinoceroses for mating." And I'm looking around, and inside this big building, there's just the one rhinoceros. And she took my hand and she showed me how to. So the panels of armor that they have.
Yeah.
If you stroke them in between those panels, it's like really, it's really ticklish, and they're sensitive in a certain way. And the panel that is kind of on the hip, so it kind of connects the hip to the hind leg, is the bit that's kind of like, I suppose it's like stroking its inner thigh. She's getting me to do this and run my hand up and down it and up and down it. And she's like, she points underneath the rhinoceros and goes, look what you're doing. So I look down. And all of a sudden this thing's got 5 legs. And one of them is purple and pulsating. And I'm looking at that. And honest to God, I've never seen anything like it. It's big. You'd expect a rhino's willy to be big. I mean, I love it. I like how I'm telling this story, and I said willy. I kind of censored myself from saying cock. And this rhino's willy was bigger than you would imagine. Honest to God, it was thicker than my own thigh. It was nearly as thick as the rhino's own thigh, and it had all these purple veins around it. And then the zookeeper, after a few, maybe a minute of doing that, the zookeeper kind of said, "Right, let's move on." And I'm like, I'm looking at this rhino. I mean, I wasn't going to do anything about it, but I'm looking at this rhino who's kind of like looking at me with doe eyes. And I look back at the zookeeper and I say, "We're just going to leave him like that."
Oh,
like there's
you're a heartbreaker. You're just
You're a cock tease. That's what you are.
Yeah.
It sounded like love at first sight, though.
Yeah. Well, I thought they were going to kind of like let him loose on one of the rhino
females or something.
Yeah, but they just were like, "All right, let's move on. Let's go and feed some meerkats now." I just felt sorry for the guy. I felt like a tease.
For the listeners at home, you can see that video on ZooHub, which is being uploaded now.
Because it was a rhinoceros. How about Hornhub?
Hornhub.
I worked on a couple of levels.
Yeah,
that's a great story. That's freaking great. I love stories like
that. I know. Yeah. I think we just end the podcast there.
End of podcast. I'll say brilliant podcast.
Yeah.
No, it was an interesting time being a journalist. I got to do all sorts of cool stuff like that, but in the end, I moved into marketing and
you got yourself a sensible job.
Yeah. So, Curse Films, one of you two can kick this off.
I think I'll let Rick start, but I think this one was just because no one's going to ever prove or disprove anything. But it's sort of like it's one of them things where it's all about opinions, and it's all about what you think could have happened, or what you think is absolutely is people manipulated figures, or is something happened which people have sort of took it to the next level. So obviously, I know, Rick, on our private social media apps, we've been talking between the three of us. You brought a couple of films up which you found quite interested. So is there a particular one you want to start with?
Yeah, but first of all, I was having some thoughts that were kind of like outside of particular films, and just like you were saying then about how it's about whether things are manipulated or truth has been stretched or anything like that. And I kind of thought there's different types of cursed films, so I think it's important to kind of establish that. So there's cursed films where things have undeniably gone wrong, either during filming or as a consequence of the film, and it is definitely something's gone wrong. So obviously I can't think of an example of
tornado blowing the set down.
Yeah, exactly. No. Actually, no. As a consequence of the film. So, for example, and I know this is one that Carlos wants to talk about later. So I'm sorry for kind of mentioning it now.
No, sorry, because there's no flair, there's no like set pattern. We'll just go with the flow, mate. Don't worry about it.
So The Conqueror, with John Wayne film, where it was filmed on a nuclear test site, and then a third of the people who involved in the film died of cancer. That's as a consequence of the film.
Got you.
The Crow, where Brandon Lee was shot by a dummy gun that was not dummied properly, and those are things that actually definitely happened because of the film. Yeah. But then there's things where things have gone wrong, but it's fun to link to them and say that they're more than coincidence. So, Passion of the Christ being struck by lightning, or like a tornado going through the film, something like that. But then there's also ones where, as Carlos mentioned, the urban legends have been maybe they've been embraced and they've been exaggerated, and for the marketing reasons. So I think for everything, we've got to kind of be cynical and ask, did a film benefit from being cursed? Was it some sort of goal of selling more tickets at the box office? But to go to your question of which film I wanted to talk about first, it's more of a novel. So, well, it's a film as well, but I wanted to talk about Don Quixote. So there's a curse around Don Quixote and the kind of the adapting it for film. So those, I'm sure most people are familiar with Don Quixote, but for those who aren't, it's widely regarded as the first modern novel, and it's basically a story about a delusional man who goes off completing quests with his horse and his pal, who's this basically a tramp. I don't know. Are you allowed to say tramp anymore? I don't know. Vagabond. And he gets in fights with windmills and all this sort of stuff. And it's a very, very long book. It doesn't. I've enjoyed what I've read of the book. I've not read it all the way through, but I did once try and sit down with it. But obviously, as you can imagine, it's 500 years old. It's not easy for the modern reader. But many big names and big directors have tried to commit this to film, and they've all been hit by various kind of different unfortunate events. So, for example, Orson Welles spent decades wanting to make the film. He was working on it. It was going to be his kind of his magnum opus. It was something that everyone who wants to do a film about Don Quixote, it's a really big thing for them. It's going to be the film, the main magnum opus. And Orson Welles, he worked on it for years and years and years, and there was things that went wrong and things that delayed filming, and he was still working on it when he died in the 80s. So obviously it never got finished. Walt Disney, he wanted to make an animated version of it in 1929. Again, it took him years to get anywhere with it. It's kind of unspectacular things that went wrong, no tornadoes or kind of nuclear testing sites or anything. But 11 years on, he released Pinocchio, and that bombed at the box office, apparently. Obviously, Pinocchio's a classic. I certainly remember it well from my childhood, but apparently it bombed at the box office, and he wasn't able to kind of fund Don Quixote anymore, so he gave up at the time. And kind of most significantly in modern times, you can tell I'm reading off my notes from because I'm reading all this off. But
I love how much how prepared you are for it. I like it.
Well, I mean, this is the one when you told me that I had the option to talk about cursed films. This was something that I already liked, and the story behind it. The story behind Terry Gilliam, who is one of my favourite directors, and obviously he's a Monty Python, so that's goes in his favour. But I actually I remember watching a film at university called Lost in La Mancha, and that is actually the film that Terry Gilliam made when he gave up on making Don Quixote because it was just so cursed. I think one of the actors died. I think the main actor who was playing Don Quixote became ill. He may have died. I don't know. I haven't. I can't confirm that. But because I may not have been completely sober when I watched the film, but I remember being really interested. And I think it was hit by floods. And one of the things they realized when they kind of committed to filming in the area that they kind of booked or paid to stay in, it was under a flight path in Spain, like quite a busy flight path. So they had to kind of stop filming for that because there were no planes in 1606, so it wasn't historically accurate. And when researching this and going back and kind of looking at the things that Terry Gilliam did and the things that went wrong for him, I found out that he actually managed to finally make the film in 2018. I didn't know that. I'll have to watch it, but it's basically the first big successful time that Don Quixote has been committed to film and converted into a film, because it's just been, people say it's been cursed because for whatever reason it's proved impossible for some quite big names to even get a film made of it.
All right, cool. That's a great start because I've heard of all those. I did media studies at college, so I knew who Orson Welles was. I had to do one of my exams was on probably his most famous film, Rosebud. Never.
Citizen Kane.
Sorry, Citizens Kane. Sorry, Citizens
Kane.
Kane. Sorry.
Rosebud's his sledge, isn't it?
Rosebud, yeah. Oh, you've just massive
sorry.
spoiler there.
Well,
Massive spoiler for anyone that's not seen that.
If you've not seen Citizen Kane in the last 80 years, then
I know. Sorry, Rose.
It's like someone giving away the spoilers for Game of Thrones like a year after it's been out. If you've not watched it,
I know. I am joking. But I called it Rosebud because it starts off with a guy dying, and his last words are Rosebud, and it's all about reporters trying to work out Rosebud. What was that? And they never find out, and it was just a flashback to his childhood, and it was his first sledge. Called Rosebud. But anyway, Citizen Kane, you're absolutely right, that's what it's called. But yeah, never mentioned. We'd looked at a load of films and a load of film noir stuff because that was like the genre he was doing back then. Never mentioned Don Quixote, probably because it was never a final film that came out, so it just wasn't covered. But I didn't know about Disney either, and I knew about Terry Gilliam.
I only found out about Orson Welles and Disney because I knew the Terry Gilliam stuff, and I was doing research. I didn't know about that either.
They're big names. You think they would have got it done? You think they would have got it done? You can understand, as we maybe talk about some of the other films that struggle to get off the ground. They don't have big names and big money behind them, but
so what do you think there's something behind it? Because obviously I know clearly you got obviously some of the names you mentioned, some of the biggest people. I think Walt Disney is the one nobody's won more Oscar academies than Walt Disney. So these are some of the biggest names in not just film history but world history. So do you think there is something behind it there? When I say a curse, I don't mean somebody's throwing chicken bones around the stage. Do you think there's something like kind of some kind of dark? Because I do believe in positive energy and I do believe in negative or dark energy. So do you think there could be something around not actual the stage but something around the book itself, or some kind of, because like I said, when you've walked into a nightclub you sometimes go, do you know what, I've got a really bad feeling about this nightclub, and then 10 minutes later it kicks off and you thought, yeah, your gut feeling had this. So do you think there could be something inside, like where there could be some literature or there's some kind of demonic something going, some demonic play going around the book, or the person who wrote the book? Or
I think this is probably one I'd put in the category of it's a fun mystique to kind of give an aura to the story. And I think Terry Gilliam's probably played up to that himself certainly by going with that Lost in La Mancha film, by releasing that film, which was a fun documentary to watch. I think it was Johnny Depp that he had playing Don Quixote at the time. It's almost like he's marketing the eventual film that he's going to make. Why would he give up and make a documentary about it? I don't know, but I think it's probably that people who want to make it really, really, really want to make it so badly that I don't know, it becomes hard to make. They have to make it perfect. I don't know.
It adds to the kudos as well, doesn't it? This conversation, and we can't be the only people talking. So it's like it adds to the kudos as well. It's like you're already selling tickets without even making the film. You know what I mean? So it's very clever.
Yeah, I mean, well, it makes me want to go and find that finished film and watch it.
Adam Driver's in it, apparently.
Adam Driver, okay.
Kylo Ren.
Yeah, I know he is, yeah. So, yeah, I don't think it's like a haunting or whatever, Carlos. I think the films that are covered by them would be the likes of Passion of Christ or The Exorcist and stuff like that. I think they would come under that. Before we go on to them, because we have mentioned it, Rick mentioned it. So, The Conqueror, which is the John Wayne film about Genghis Khan, is said to be the film that killed John Wayne, basically. So it was actually filmed. So I've got I'm just looking at some notes here. I made some notes on this. So because I wanted to know where, once I heard about it, I want to know where was it filmed? Where was this radioactive set? So it was filmed in the canyons and dunes around St. George, which is a little remote town in Utah. There's even a press shot of John Wayne. John Wayne, I think it might be the director and his two sons looking at this black box, it's basically a Geiger counter. And it was said to just be going absolutely mental, so much so that John Wayne said, "Oh, it's obviously broken," and they declared it as being completely safe.
Yeah, it was so bad, you couldn't believe it. It was probably one of them, innit?
It was, yeah. He just went, "Oh, it's obviously faulty," and so because they knew there was no bombs had been detonated near there, but what they didn't know is it was downrange of it. So all the atomic dust that went in the air basically landed in and around this St. George area. But actually, the United States apparently basically denied it as well. So that didn't help it, because if they did say, oh yeah, there's areas of the US that are poisoned like this, people would stay away, but apparently they denied it for years. In 1980, it's reported that of the 220 cast and crew, 91 had contracted cancer and 46 of them had died. So that's like a quarter of them have died, and almost half of them have had cancer and some. So it got John Wayne, it got the leading lady, it got another main figure. John Wayne's two sons had cancer but have recovered from it.
That number's even bigger when you take into account that life expectancy and people. They used to say 1 in 3 people are affected by cancer. They now kind of say 1 in 2.
Yeah.
And mainly it's because you get cancer the older you are, and the more people who are living over, say, 80 and things like that. So you would imagine that going back to the 50s and 60s.
And plus, back then people smoked more back then as well.
Yeah. So, well, what I'm saying is that is a higher number than you would kind of think of it today, if that makes sense, because those 92 people might be 90 years old.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? People used to die before they got to have cancer. Do you know what I mean? Like when they were dying, when they died younger.
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, it's the older you live, the more chance you ever getting something. But yeah.
It's a bit like filming near Chernobyl, won't it? Now it'd be like in, I think Chernobyl. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but is it Chernobyl? It's unlivable for the next 20,000 years, or it's going to be either 2,000 or 20,000 years.
I can't remember the half-life, but
I'll give it 20,000 just to be on the safe side.
Yeah,
and I think so. But in 20,000 years, if we've lost records and people start filming somewhere near that area, people are going to obviously be catching. Being radioactive and catching all sorts of, well, not diseases, but it'll be like some kind of cancer. So I think with that one, The Conqueror, that was because I think it was your brother who brought it to our attention, didn't it? And I think it was your brother who brought that.
It was Jonesy. My
Oh,
brother-in-law,
Joneses,
yeah.
sorry, Joneses, your brother-in-law. Yeah, and I looked into it and I thought, wow, well, this is probably not so much curse. This is either, dare I say, stupidity. That's more like not doing your research and not looking into where you're actually, because obviously these are apartments where obviously we all know we're all from Manchester, but all these apartments are getting thrown up all over the place in Manchester, and sometimes you think you don't know, and people forget that Manchester was an industrial city, and you don't know what pipes and what gas leaks are all over the place. So I'm concerned. I hope not. I'm concerned that some of these apartments what are being thrown up all over Trafford, all over Manchester, that they could have some kind of poison leaking through to the apartments. So that's more like either bad organisation, bad sort of location and stuff like that. So which is added to the deaths of, like I said, is it what nearly a quarter of them have died through cancer and stuff like that.
Just a thought come to me then, Carlos, is if they thought it was completely safe, why did they have a Geiger counter with them? Because it's
Good
not something
question.
you carry around, is it?
No,
Unless you are going to
that just makes sense.
Chernobyl.
I'm staying at your house tonight, Andy, and I've got my Geiger counter. You think it's like you think why? Well, because I know there was a nuclear leak here 20,000 years ago. It's like,
And
well,
it goes fucking, and then you turn it on and it goes fucking mental, but
yeah,
you still fucking blow up bed up.
Yeah,
yeah, but that's actually, think about it. That's so we'll put this down to, yes, it's an event and it's true, but you put it, dare I say, because people's lost their lives, you put it down to stupidity, wouldn't you?
yeah,
Because there should have been better research. And like you said, if you've got a gag counter, clearly there's some kind of there's something you're not happy with, or you need to. I'm sure on these, when you've got, even back then in the 50s, 60s, you've probably got some kind of paperwork, like if you're an air stewardess and the plane goes down, the air stewardess doesn't get a life doesn't get a payout. Whereas, like, if us three went on there and the plane went down, our family would get something because it's written into some kind of document that you, because obviously you're like. So if I was working on that set, I'm liable because I chose to work on set. So you probably didn't have to pay off like insurance fees and stuff like that.
yeah,
So maybe that's the reason for that. Yeah, we checked it. There's no nuclear fallout here, and then let's carry on. And then probably these families who lost their loved ones probably did not had a payout when they should have had a payout, really.
yeah. Okay, Carlos. Then you can pick the next film.
The
Can you
next
think
one
of one? Can
is
you think of one that's not sort of like coincidence, accidental? That maybe
no.
is.
This one is it's a one where I think the three of us have watched it, and it's one where I've had personal experiences because of this film. I've actually felt things at home and stuff. So that's why, and it's The Exorcist. It's The Exorcist is. I watched I don't know. Have you two watched The Exorcist, the film The Exorcist, the
Yeah.
original one?
Yeah,
Yep. Okay, so you know
yeah,
it. Obviously, watching even now watching it, I still get scared. The Exorcist, there was not so much. It was what was happening on set where people were falling ill. I can't remember if people have actually died, but there was some dark energy, and it was things what were not happening. Things weren't right. Um, Even so, the director, which is completely slipped my mind, the director of the Exorcist film, did a documentary revisiting himself, how he actually put the idea together, who he got involved, which priest he approached, X,
William
Y, Z.
Friedkin
Was that
or
sorry?
William Friedkin or William
Was it?
Friedkin. Sorry, I pronounced.
No,
Can you
no,
edit
that's
out the
fine.
one where I pronounced his name wrong?
well, I don't
No,
know.
no, it's just no. Yeah, you're right. That's the one. And he talked about. He says his first thing, and talk about the irony. The first thing he said on his interview, he says, "We shouldn't even be talking about this." He says, and the guy goes, "You shouldn't be talking about this because you do not know who's listening." The director was saying that even by talking about it, you will bring dark energies. We're talking about Satan himself here, and it's like, and even now watching watching the documentary, within the first 10 minutes, I'm like, do I really want to keep watching this? I was shitting myself because he says we shouldn't even be talking about it. He started interviewing people who exorcisms and priests and some of the stuff, and it wasn't all this like the pea soup and head spinning. These were like, and I thought, shit, I was scaring myself. I actually stopped watching it at night time, started watching it in the daytime, and that's how scared it was. And to add to what I said before, I remember when I was about 17, 18 watching The Exorcist. and we watched a follow up to I think it was Exorcist 3, but it's actually Exorcist 2, and after that, I was just asking so many questions to, I'm going to say my cousin, but he's not a cousin, but I've known him since the day I was born. And he kept saying, Carlos, stop talking about it. Just stop being inquisitive. Just leave it alone. But why would the devil choose that person? Why not that person? Why does he want that soul? And it's just, I just kept going on. It's like, for 4 or 5 hours, kept talking about it. It says, Carlos, stop talking. You're going to end up scaring yourself. And then literally, so we all go to bed. I was staying at his house. And then literally, I was like, I start feeling like a cold sensation on my legs. And I just thought the windows left over. And I said, Roddy, just shut the windows. The windows are closed. The heating's on. Right, okay. And then I can feel it, the cold sensation going up onto my legs, to my knees, to me. And that's when I start panicking when it gets to my waist. And I said, Roddy, I can't move. I was like literally panicking. He says, he turns like, what's up with you? I can't move. He goes, shut up, what's up with you? And he goes to pick me up. And he gets sort of thrown back. Like he throws back. And it's like, and once that happened, it's sort of like I got released, and then I ran out the house. I literally ran out the house in my pajamas, kind of thing. And I was just, and his mum and dad were in the other room and says, "What are you doing?" And his mum says, "What?" His mum says, "What have you brought into this house? I can feel something. What have you brought into this house?" And she says, "Stop talking about that, sir. You don't know what you're bringing in." And that's just to elaborate, where obviously I wasn't doing anything, but I was attracted. I was being inquisitive. I probably had
How old were you?
17, 18. So, but I was very inquisitive. So, but I was talking about the dark arts and the possession, the Satan, Lucifer taking over souls, taking over children's souls, murder and all that. So it's clearly dark talk, because obviously, and we started and we watched Exorcist 3 after it, which is the Exorcist 2 really, and I just thought, wow, that's when I started realizing, there's, to give an example, that sometimes you're talking about things, and if you're talking about positive, you usually attract positive people, but if you're talking about negative, you usually attract negative people. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that kind of thing.
Did you go back in the house, or did you go home or something?
Oh, I went back into the house, but I never slept. After that, I don't think I ever slept at the house ever again, because what I felt was real. It was real. And even as the lad at the time, it's just I was being slowly sort of paralyzed from my feet going upwards, and when it got to my waist, it was like a coldness, like coldness coming up, creeping up on you.
This might be out of my area of expertise, but do you think you were? I don't want to say possessed, but do you think there's something that was related to the Exorcist was related to you?
I think there was. I've asked this question. How do I put it? I think may have opened up some form of portal or gateway where I do believe in. I don't believe in ghosts and stuff like that, but I do believe in dark and good energy. And maybe I just was being too inquisitive. I was 17, 18, so I was still relatively innocent. I had a sort of innocence about me. So I was like, maybe it, maybe it, some dark energy was playing with me, and it didn't hurt me, but it scared me. So it didn't. It frightened me. I didn't feel scared. I was frightened.
Have you
Because
heard of that thing you can have when you're going to sleep, where you get paralysis? And a lot of these alien abductions are put down to it, because you can wake up and feel like your body's not moving.
but
I've not been
to bed. I've not been to bed yet, though. It's like you now.
Right.
It's like the three of us now. We're talking, and we're just talking as that. And you're sat on the couch. Rick's sat on the couch. I'm sat on the couch. I've just put the duvet on, and we just keep talking. And you say, "Carlos, stop talking about it." Right, leave it, Carlos. Just stop talking about it. And I'm like, and I start going, okay. And then I just shut up completely.
It's
And
clearly your mates were hypnal then.
Are you putting us in danger by talking about it now? Can you get us through the podcast?
No, it's just it's one of the things where and that's why I think where certain, like, I'm sure one of you might bring up the poltergeist. Poltergeist was the same kind of thing. So do you think where, if you're talking about things where we do not understand, because first question, do you actually believe in that? Do you believe in sort of, I'm not saying God and devil, but do you believe in kind of demons and dark energy and stuff like that?
No.
Do you, Rick?
I don't think so. No, you say dark energy. I'm more inclined to believe that you use the example of being in a bar and you just kind of feel the tension. I think there's such thing as atmospheres that kind of go beyond, just talking about, it's dimly lit, it's quiet, there's this of this sense, this of that sense. I think you can feel energies. I think
You
I'd go
can
as far
pick
as
up
saying
on
that.
body languages and stuff, and you don't know you're doing it, can't you? And yeah,
And it's
when you
also
talk
like
about
knowing when
atmosphere,
you're being watched.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 There are some sort of energies, maybe.
Yeah, well,
That's as much as I'll give you.
I know Carlos has a tendency. Like when I told him to look into some maths, he goes down a rabbit hole and
Yes.
almost gets into a trance. And maybe that's something you've been doing for quite a while.
Yeah,
But,
I could have done. I could have opened up some kind of portal, and yeah, I do. I do have the ability to go down rabbit holes and take it to the next level, and I can because I can really I can really focus in on something really, and the problem is I would say some form of hypnosis, but I go so deep into it and it becomes some trance state, and I jump into it. So yeah, that's a good way. I could have done that with that, and remember, it wasn't like a 5 minute conversation. It's like 5-6 hours later, to the point where my cousin at the time was saying, "Carlos, stop talking about it," because I think I was scaring, I was freaking him about it because
well, you probably were. I mean, I've been on they had the massive wheel in the middle of Manchester, and normally I'm quite fine with that, but I'm on it with me gran and my brother who does not like heights at all, and because they were so nervous, made me nervous because I'm in a carriage with nervous people.
yeah.
So I understand that. So
Yeah.
you probably were making your cousin nervous, but and you probably were going. So what about do you know anything about why people say it's a cursed film? Any of the actual things that went on around the recording or
Because
post filming with the actors or anything?
they were saying because you're talking about Satan or Lucifer himself, so there's no more evil than Satan and Lucifer himself. So you're not talking about some serial killer. You're not talking about some guy who's murdered a couple of people. So you've got two entities. You've got God, which is benevolent, and you've got the devil, which is malevolent. So you can't go. So you're calling onto all the. If you think about all the evilest and demonic things we've witnessed or we've saw or read about or listened to, it's all attributed to the devil or Satan
Yeah,
himself. So it's probably that's the bit where it's hard one, because you're bringing out negative vibrations. It's a bit like if I was to wake you up in the morning and I started singing a nice lullaby, you'd wake up. So if I started
I love it when you do that, Carlos.
but if I started singing some kind of thrash, demonic, Satan, fucking heavy metal, you're gonna go, "What the fuck? Go away, you weirdo!" Because it's because of the frequency. When you're talking about certain energies, good, bad, or indifferent, you're attracting certain energy, certain vibrations. I do believe it's like a gut instinct. You're probably attracting that.
Yeah, I don't believe in this frequency thing, but I, I think again it was hype and it was publicism to get the film, because it wasn't banned for a while. The Exorcist, was that one of the
Yeah,
ones that was
yeah, it
banned
was
for a bit?
banned. It was banned. Yeah, it
So
was banned.
again, someone bans a film, you want to watch it, don't you? Why was this
Yeah.
banned? But some of the stuff I was reading, people were warning them not to make it. It's a subject you shouldn't cover because of this, that, and
They
the
had
other.
paramedics outside because people were collapsing and vomiting outside,
Well,
weren't
yeah,
they?
the Exorcist is one of those films that it kind of ticks all the boxes of the
Yeah.
things that I mentioned at the beginning, of things where things have gone wrong, things
Yeah.
have happened that are definitely connected, and then things that were the hype has just been embraced. I mean, you had people having heart attacks in the cinema when it came out. Like say, it was people. You've got the
Vomiting, everything. They had
body
paramedics outside.
vomiting, and a couple of the actors died while it was in post production,
Right, okay.
and also the house caught fire when they were
Yeah.
filming. Have you heard this one? The
I'm
house
not sure if it was while it was filming or it was after, but
was it after? But yeah,
apart from one room, everything was
yeah, and
destroyed by
obviously,
fire. Apart
which
from
room was it? Obviously,
yeah, the room.
the bedroom.
Yeah, I don't know about the deaths, but apparently most of the actors suffered injuries during the filming, and
Well,
when it
Linda
was
Blair did herself, didn't she?
sorry, say again.
Linda Blair, the girl, did herself, didn't she?
But also as well, just to add to that, If you ever get a chance, watch that. It's on Netflix. I'll post it up, or we'll put it up on the
Social.
podcast social what it's called. But it's the woman who did the voices, for the young girl. They had to create, because that back then it wasn't computers, so there was like a kind of opera singer, and they had to. So what she started doing, she started talking, she started getting into some kind of deep state. She drank alcohol, so to roughen her voice up, and she started going, and then she started going to. She talks about it, and she actually does the voice there live, and it's like, and you can hear like 3 or 4 voices within her voice, and she says, "How do you do that?" It's because I'm first I have a couple of drinks to roughen my voice up, but then my thought process, I go into a dark place. So clearly she's thinking about doing evil, and she's there going, oh, and you can hear like fucking 2 or 3 voices when her voice she's talking to you, and it's like you start shivering, because that's the demon's voice coming through her. It's not obviously it's not a demon, but she says how she does it. She goes into a negative, horrible place to get there.
How much is she hyping that though? Because
Oh no, she's been interviewed, and she's
yeah,
probably
but
in the 70s, 80s at the time, and she could still do it. She
yeah,
could
but
still do the
I
voice.
do wonder. She's in the film business, or has been. Wants a name to be. Wants the fame. Maybe wants the money from the interviews,
Oh no, the interview
documentaries,
was done
whatever.
about 10, 15 years ago, or something. But it's
Yeah,
like
it might. Yeah, it might be. But what I'm saying is,
but it just shows that people have to go to dark places.
is she not hyping that up, or is she just you hear about these method actors all the time that
Yeah.
live the life for 4 weeks and as a tramp because they're playing a tramp in a film and stuff like that. They go and live on the street for 4. Yeah, it's crazy anyway. So cool. Okay, Exorcist done and dusted. Do you want to throw another one in, Rick?
Yeah, I mean, I know we're probably going to talk about more horror films, but I just wanted to bring up one that I didn't know about until I started researching. Have you guys heard of a film called Atuk? Spelled ATUK.
Yes. Only today. Only
Yeah.
today I read that one.
No, I've not
So
come across that one.
it's it's a film. Again, it's based on a novel. This novel's about an Eskimo living in New York. I actually not too familiar with the story. I don't think the story matters too much. I'm not sure if that's a comedy. I'd like to think that an Eskimo in New York is a comedy, because in my mind,
I think it was
like,
supposed to be
in my mind, it's like
yeah.
Elf. Do you know when Elf goes to New York? Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what it is.
take someone, put them in a situation where they're out of their place and they have a load of weird mishaps and
with hilarious consequences.
That's the one, yeah.
Yeah. So it's basically killed actors who agreed to star in it. So I mean, the list of actors who died makes me think it probably was a comedy, because after agreeing or signing on the dotted line, and some of them I think even filmed a lot of it, they died. So John Belushi obviously famously died. Sam Kinison, John Candy, although with the greatest respect to Mr. Candy, probably wasn't the film that killed him. And Chris Farley, the guy who was originally, he actually filmed 90% of Shrek as well at the time of dying. But yeah, all those guys, and I think there might have been more, but there's at least those 4 that.
Those 4, when I saw them, I thought the same as you. They were all of a certain build, weren't they? And
it's not
especially
like that we can blame the film, but 4 people agreeing to take a role and then dying before they could do it. That's
it's one of them. It's like coincidences do happen, but there's too many coincidences there, isn't there?
Yeah, it's a lot.
Well, I know John Belushi, James Belushi. Did you say John Belushi or James Belushi? Did you say
John
Belushi? If I remember him, he was a bit of a party boy as well, wasn't
he? Yeah.
So, but the thing sometimes, okay, so we'll never know what exactly. But do you think that's just one massive coincidence, or do you think there could be some form of, I don't know. I won't say. I'm not going to say.
You want me to say there's sinister
there's some kind of
energies afoot,
or could there be some kind of I don't
like
know,
an Eskimo who doesn't want you to take the piss out of him.
So yeah, some Eskimo kind of Eskimo ghosts flying around. But do you believe that's the? I'm trying to say, it's like I do believe in dark energy. I'm not saying that's associated, but sometimes you think, when people say, listen, like that's a haunted house, and people go, yeah, but when they go into that house, no, I don't know if it's your mind playing tricks, but there is something going on, or there is some kind of you feel like you're not alone, you feel like there's someone there with you, kind of thing. So do you think it could be not so much the place, but associated with that story or the person behind or involved in that film or documentary? There's something surrounding him. Do you think?
I tell you what, Carlos, I'll put it this way. I don't know if I believe there's anything to do with dark energy being afoot here, but if I was a comic actor and I got offered that role, I'd turn it down
Okay.
just to be on the safe side.
Yeah, okay. That's an interesting one. That's Andy. If they offered you that role, would you turn it down, or would you? They've offered you £1 million. Fuck me, this is the
Right? Have they offered me, Rick, the non-actor, just the guy who wanks off rhinos? Have they offered me £1 million, or have they offered me the established actor who could get another acting job for maybe?
Oh no,
years?
you as you are now.
All right. Well, yeah, I probably would do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I'd love £1 million, but if I was an actor that could command that sort of money for film, I'd probably go, best not.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'd probably say the same as Rick.
Yeah, but it's amazing how even though you two don't believe it, but there's something holding you back. It's just
Yeah.
weird because that's the bit
Well,
where
it's not holding you. It's
because
not
you're
holding.
rational, because you're both very intelligent guys. You've both got rational, scientific, and mathematical minds. But there's something just saying, just are you sure? Are you sure?
It's
Because if you
it's not holding you back. But if you were an actor, like you said, like Rick said, if your normal film would net you £1 million, then why do something that is struggling to get off the ground and just do something else instead?
On the flip side of that, though, it'd be good to be the guy who finally got it over the line.
yeah, true.
Yeah.
Can I just ask something about this film? I know I brought it up and I know I introduced it, and I'm assuming Atuk is the name of the actual Eskimo who's in New
Yeah.
York. All these actors, were they meant to be playing an Eskimo? Because I can't picture any of them as
No,
an Eskimo.
a part of it. So they renamed it. I can't. Atuk. It was called Atuk something. The book, and it was about an Eskimo, but they were going to change it to be a Jewish person that was from Alaska, moving
Are you going to ask it? I'll
to
go, well done.
moving to New York
Is
instead.
that from John? Is John Belushi Jewish?
I'm
going to say
don't
yeah.
know. Don't know. They
Belushi
all
sounds
look
Jewish.
quite. They all look quite similar. There's definitely a couple of them that were, but that's just what I read. That's just what I read today. Do you know what got me onto cursed films? Was I heard that Harry Potter was a cursed film. Now, if you try and Google Harry Potter cursed or cursed films, you're never going to find any information on it, and I'll tell you why. Is because there's a new book come out called Harry Potter and the Curse of something or other, and that's
Child, yeah.
Cursed Child, and that's all that comes up. So I did manage to find something though. You know, what? How many films did they do? Was it 7, 8? Was one
8,
split into 2? Was it 8? Yeah. So over 20 actors have died. So these include Rick Mayall, Alan Rickman, John Hurt, Vern Troyer.
Whoa. Rick Mayall was in Harry Potter.
Yeah, one of the early ones. Yeah.
Was he?
Yeah.
I love Rick Mayall. If I find out that Becky Twat killed him.
Well, if you think about it, the Harry Potter, you are dealing with dark arts, witchcraft, aren't you?
Well, yeah.
Oh.
So I think that feeds into it. So I can't, I've not got a full list of all of, all the other 20 or so, but I know that one actor was murdered when he came out of a nightclub. Another actor died of heat exposure when he was running through some desert in America. And you start to think, and then you go, hold on, but all these others, Rick Mayall, Alan Rickman, John, they were all getting on a bit. So
Yeah.
the rest of them were like over 70 years old. Most of them in the late 80s and 90s. One woman was age 100. Shock horror. Woman of 100 years old dies. It's
Yeah, so that one you just put down to,
yeah.
like you mentioned before, the previous film. It's probably
I know. Yeah,
some of them should have been dead a long time ago.
I know.
But yeah, someone
And
dies at 100 years old.
also, how many actors within those films?
Yeah, there was a
Thousands.
lot.
Hundreds and
But then again, a
hundreds
lot
of
of
actors,
kids.
man. So,
So
you know,
loads of
and
averages.
cast
You're
and
going to have
crew.
people who's loads of
Yeah.
averages.
Yeah. Especially when you've got like you know, they're all in the coronavirus risk age. I'm not saying
Yeah.
coronavirus took
Well,
them
it
out,
was Pete
but you know what I mean. They're all
Postlewaite,
over. You know,
Gambler,
a lot of them are over 70s playing old teachers and whatnot. So yeah,
although Maggie Smith's still kicking about, isn't she?
yeah.
She was the one who like probably looked older than the rest.
Yeah, because the original Dumbledore was one of them, wasn't he?
Michael Gambon, yeah.
Oh
But
no, did Michael Gambon?
Is
Was
it
he the one that
Harris?
died, or did he the one do from
is
episode 2?
he still alive, Michael Gambon?
I don't know.
Richard Harris, it was. Sorry, yeah,
Richard Harris, yeah. So Michael Gambon took over, didn't he? So yeah, that's cool.
You can help support the podcast or keep in touch with the boys by following them on Twitch and subscribing on YouTube. Please check the link in the show notes when you get a moment. twitch.tv/TheoConPod.
But yeah, that's what got me onto the subject. I was like, oh, Harry Potter's supposed to be a cursed film. That's what got me looking.
I suppose there are quite a lot of deaths there.
Yeah, because if you look at mathematically, they've probably got 2,000 or 3,000 people with makeup artists and delivery people, and so there's going to be a lot of the laws of averages are going to be a percentage of the people who are probably in the 50s and 60s. And I think Harry Potter's been going on for the last 15 years, correct me if I'm wrong,
Yeah,
something like last
yeah,
10, 15 years. So
yeah.
a lot of them would have been in the 50s, 60s, getting into the 70s, 80s. So yeah, they would have passed away. But
You've just reminded me. You've just reminded me of a bit that I think it's Louis C.K. does, and have you heard, you know Louis C.K. the comedian?
Yes.
And I think it's actually in like one of his intros to one of his shows where he says, I think he says, oh, there's 3,000 people here tonight, and he says he just kind of takes that in for a second, and then he just starts going on about how in a couple of months there's a statistical chance someone's going to die. Someone in this room will be dead in a couple of months. It's just the way he says it much funnier than that. Obviously, I've just said it really depressingly, but you just reminded me of that piece. Might want to
because it's like the average is you're more likely to, when you go to work in the morning, that there's somebody who's gonna, well, obviously the roads shouldn't be as busy, but the laws of averages, somebody's gonna die that morning on a car crash, isn't there? So
yeah,
it's sort of like scientifically proven that the laws of averages, people are going to die from something. But yeah, but goes back to the Harry Potter. Like, I go back to, I think, is there something sinister about it? No, but when you are sort of talking about witchcraft, and I'm not saying voodoo itself, but some darker energies, but maybe you are attracting certain elements to the dark side, or not say the dark force, but dark energies to that environment, and you're sort of like subjecting yourself to that kind of negativity.
Yeah.
If you believe, if that is true, and like the thing you were saying about The Exorcist, then I suppose Harry Potter would be tempting fate. But then again, if you include in Harry Potter, you have to include everything in between Harry Potter and The Exorcist. So, anything like the Avengers, they're dealing with like magic stuff, aren't they? I mean,
that's true. That's true.
That would be blasphemy, wouldn't it?
No, it's true. I'm sure
X-Men,
there's probably X-Men, or anything sort of like anything which is anything, even if you're talking about films, which is we went through a period of like going through films which are about killers, serial killers. We're obsessed with killers, aren't we? As a species,
you are.
I
love a good serial killer documentary, Carlos. Don't worry about it. I love it.
Exactly. It's like everybody loves a good. When you watch a film and it's a good film, it's always some FBI chasing some serial killer. You know what I mean? It's always something like that. And they're the ones what get you going.
Do you know what, Carlos?
Obsessed with it.
You talk about your rabbit holes. You know what I like is serial killers, the interviews in prison. So you get like your Ted Bundys and your BTK killer and stuff. There's a load of them from like, I don't know, the 80s or whatever, where they've done an interview in prison, and it's like an hour or 2 hours long, and you just listen to them speak and tell their stories and stuff. That's interesting. It's horrible, obviously, but it's the kind of stuff that you can't keep your eyes off.
The best thing for that is a thing called Mindhunters, which is on Netflix, I think. And have you watched Mindhunters, Rick?
I've not watched it.
I may have seen stuff from it, but I usually just go down YouTube rabbit holes for this sort of stuff.
Mindhunter is basically exactly what you just said. It's two guys who were from the 60s who started studying serial killers. Well, the word serial killers doesn't exist yet. They coined the phrase serial killer. So they started interviewing people like Charles Manson and because people just think, oh, someone who goes and kills like 3 or 4 people, oh, they must be a lunatic. No. It's like Ed Kempler. Ed Kempler had an IQ of 145. You kill a person, you're a murderer. You kill 3, you're a serial killer.
5
and then that's what it's. And it's like, if you ever get a chance, and it's exactly what you just said, Rick. Is literally these guys interview and they talk what they did, and it's like you and I, the 3 of us here talking now, and it's one of us saying, "Oh yeah, I murdered 15 people last night," and yeah, by the way, I just made myself a sandwich as well. It's like, wow, it's weird. It's like
they're definitely detached from the emotional side of it as well, aren't they? They're like cold like that when you. Carlos, you mentioned stats. You know, with just a numbers game. So is a numbers game for you. So do you know how many people you have to have in a room to get a 50-50 chance of sharing a birthday with someone? So there's 365 days a year. We could
366 if it's a leap year. So
I won't jump in here because I know the answer.
All right. So
roughly, I remember the answer.
Let's just go with 365, a normal year, Carlos. Yeah. How many people do you have to have in the same room to get a 50-50 chance of 2 of those people sharing the same birthday?
Oh, there's 12 months. The same day, you mean? The same day?
The same day, yeah. So 1st of January, for example.
I'm going to say... I was going to go right down the middle. So what's that? 186 or something? Well, so what's half?
So you're saying half of 365.
That's exactly what you would think that you're supposed to think, isn't it?
Yeah. In terms of stats, you would think, I need half the people here. That gives me 50-50. Yeah. So Rick, go on. You know the answer. Go on.
Well, I might be wrong, but it's about 20, isn't it?
23.
23, yeah.
Do you know how many people you have to have in a room to get a 99.9% chance of sharing the same birthday as someone?
So 100% is 23, you said?
No, 50% chance is 23.
So let's get close to 100. So I'm going to say, don't know, double it then, 46.
Not quite. 75. So it's got it. There's a bell curve on it, but 75. You think 75 people out of 365? That's still quite. It's like a third.
I suppose the way a simple kind of explain it like I'm 5 way of looking at it would be that you line these people up, you ask them the first one what their birthday is, right? 1st of January. You ask the next one. That's then a new date that you're looking to match up. And then the third one, if it's wrong, if it's still a different date, if it's a different date, you're not looking for everyone to match the 1st of January.
No, that's
Once
true.
you ask the second person and they've got a different date, you're then looking for a match to 2 and then 3 and then 4. And before you know it, you've got 30 dates, 30 people left or whatever. Yeah. And the chances are built up. It's a statistical.
The 23rd person has got 22 other dates to match to, hasn't he?
Yeah.
When he sticks his hand up and he goes,
if the date hasn't already been matched.
Yeah, exactly.
Joe, that's a great start. I didn't know that.
If you start to think about it, it becomes really, really unlikely, or you would think it would be really, really unlikely for everyone to have a separate birthday.
Yeah. A couple of films I've had on my list then is 2003 Passion of Christ, 1982 Poltergeist. That really scared me. My auntie let me watch it when I was far too young. And 1994 The Crow, possibly the most famous curse one because obviously it was Brandon Lee, which is Bruce Lee's son. And again, Rick mentioned it earlier, a gun, a prop gun with blanks in it. Didn't misfire, but there was something left in the barrel from one of the previous blanks, and that the force shot out and got him.
And do you know what else was? I think it was something like the firearms expert that they had to have on set. That was like the one day he wasn't there.
Oh, was it?
He would have checked it.
Yes, yeah, possibly. So in my sum up of that one, so we'll do that one and then go back over the others. So the film was absolutely hampered by setbacks and accidents. That was the one with the tornado that destroyed the set a couple of times. Another time, a guy accidentally drove his car into the workshop, which was right next to the set, and destroyed a load of stuff. Rather than it be this demon that Bruce Lee's wife reckons, I think she was talking about it in another documentary when she was talking about Bruce and Brandon, about some sort of demon which came out, I think, just after The Crow. Literally, because it was hampered by setbacks, it was low budget, it was behind schedule, and they were just cutting corners. Stuff like firing guns on days they shouldn't have been firing guns because the firearms guy wasn't on set. Yeah, cut corners. You're playing with lives,
But
aren't
also
you?
the guy you just mentioned, the guy who's the sort of gun expert, the one day of the year or the one day he's not on set, it goes wrong. So
But
obviously
it's
coincidences
more
do
likely
happen.
to go wrong if he's not on there. If you've not got the
Yeah.
expert around, it's
You don't know if
like,
somebody's not cleaned it properly or put the bullet in properly or X,
yeah,
Y, Z.
Well, that was it. I think it had a live round in it. It was a gun that had been adjusted to be, like not a gun that should be able to fire proper rounds, and then it had something like that.
It was on the article I saw. It was a bit from the previous gun. So when you hit the shell and it's empty, it's got no projectile on the front. It's just the black powder going bang, and it's but it's still shooting a force out the front. It's just not projecting a blob of lead in front of it. I've got a little bit of experience with guns. You do have to clean your barrels and stuff because stuff can get stuck in there.
Yeah.
They just probably didn't know because the gun expert wasn't there. They just thought, oh, we can put blanks in it and just shoot it as often as we want. We don't have to do anything about it, and not checking like you say, the barrel before they put another round in for another take. And if you did look down there, they would have seen this shard of metal, and it basically just flew out, hit him in the stomach, and it was fatal, unfortunately. A poltergeist, obviously, the most famous one is the little girl died.
Yeah.
I saw something today when I was reading up on that. Apparently, they have a Super Bowl poster in the bedroom for 1988. Yeah, it was filmed in 1992. Sometimes they'll put posters up to put films into a different date. They weren't trying to put it way in the future or anything. I just think they were trying to stop it dating or something as much. But apparently, when the little girl did die, apparently one day she just started being sick, and they rushed her to Child's Hospital, and I think it was something like septicemia that got her, and it was caused by something in her stomach. But the town that she was living in at the time, and the hospital she was taken to, it was in the same place the Super Bowl was set that year, and the year was 1988. So a lot of people are saying that scene where the little lad is sat on his bed, the scene where he's on his bed and the clown comes out from under the bed. Spoilers for anyone that's not watched it.
In the last 30, 40 years, yeah.
Yeah, apparently, yeah. It says, can you believe that? So that's 40 years next year. Wow, that's crazy, isn't it? So yeah, apparently there's people are making ties with that and stuff like that. But again, a lot of them were, from what I read, were simply age-related inexplainable illnesses from the people that died. So there we go. And then Passion of Christ. Again, we mentioned this earlier on. So it's pretty rare to get struck by lightning. Although this number is staggering to me. Apparently, 240,000 people a year get struck by lightning. 240,000 people. That's massive. That's a 250,000 people a year get struck by lightning.
I suppose there's degrees of getting struck by lightning, though.
Golfers get struck by lightning quite a lot. Golfers.
Yeah.
Well, golfers.
Yeah, gophers. Yeah, gophers. Well, they're stood in open fields.
Yeah,
waving metal sticks around, aren't they? With metal spikes going into the ground, so they're a target. But apparently that is still massively rare. But when it was being filmed in 2003, it happened 3 times. Now, when I looked into it, it was when they were doing a bit where the guy that plays the lead actor of Christ, he's on the hill and he's got his arms up, so he's the highest point of contact. He's got his arms up and he's doing that big sermon where he's on top of the hill. And there was a storm brewing, and he says about 4 seconds before it hit me, I could feel something. It was going to hit me, and it just goes bang, and it was just caught off camera because the camera was panning up to him, and it hit him just before the camera got there, and apparently the rest of the crew all hit the deck, and then they then sort of resumed filming, and then another one of the actors stood near him. He then got hit. So it's like, okay, there is a lightning storm. Someone's just got struck by lightning, and then you all stand back up on the hill because you've not learnt your lesson. And he got hit again. So maybe it's not so much a coincidence. Now, if that had been like days apart or something, I'd be going, "Oh wow, now that maybe is a coincidence." But it was the same lightning storm. Do you know what I mean?
Lightning doesn't hit play same twice, does it? Lightning.
Well, it didn't. It hit two different people instead. But and apparently, so they say it hit him 3 times. But the guy that got hit the second time, he said he'd been hit previously, but doesn't say it was within the same film. He just mentions, "Oh yeah, I've been hit by lightning before." On another occasion.
This one I love. I mean, you're offering a nice kind of sensible explanation for it, in that there was a storm and it was the highest point of contact on the mount. But I love the idea of someone trying to portray Jesus on film and replicate the suffering of Christ and being smited during filming by a lightning bolt. I love the idea of it's a perfect kind of cursed film situation.
He wasn't smited. This guy,
for it.
Yeah, he wasn't smited. This guy had loads of stuff going wrong that I didn't even put in my notes, but I'm just going to remember. So he was in the whipping scene where they're whipping him. So the way they do it, they have like a pad or something just behind him. So the guy's actually whipping that, and he's just like fake reacting to it. But apparently this guy's aim was really bad, and he's whip goes over the top of it and hits Cavill. I think is it Cavill or someone? It hits him on the back, and apparently he turned around in a rage and had a right go at him, and then they start filming again, and the guy does it again, so he gets it a second time because the guy misses again. This guy with a bullwhip.
It was like he's one of those method actors you were talking about before.
Yeah, I think it's called Jim Caviezel.
Caviezel, that was it, not Cavill. Yeah, I'm thinking of Superman. And then what was there was another incident where he hurt himself. Oh, carrying the cross, where he's carrying the cross up. He did something to his collarbone or something, or his shoulder. But Carlos, you'll love this one, right? So I learned this today. So there's 2 people working on the film. One was an atheist actor, and another guy was Muslim. He wasn't an actor. He wasn't an actor. Yeah, he wasn't an actor, but he was part of the crew, I think. They both converted to Christianity because of the film, because of the trials and tribulations and just everything.
Oh, I like that.
I knew you would like that.
Then I'll flip it. So, firstly, nobody wanted anyone to make this film, especially because everybody knows Hollywood is a big Jewish community, and a lot of the people who fund films are Jewish. Obviously, everyone knows what Mel Gibson's is obviously thoughts on the Jewish community, or the Jewish people, I should say. So clearly, nobody wanted Mel Gibson. So Mel Gibson had to dip into his own pocket and fund it, which turned out I think he spent 50 million of his own money, and I think he got 400 plus million back. So it's probably one of the best investments he's ever had. Yeah. But then, correct me if I'm wrong, I watched a documentary on this one, but this is just nothing to do with this, but ages ago, that Jim Caviezel said he was told, under no circumstances are you to do this film because it'll be the end of your career. You'll never work in Hollywood.
He talks about that. So just after Gibson said to him, do the film, Gibson apparently went, hold on, no, don't do it because it's going to ruin your career. And Gibson actually told him that like minutes after him agreeing to do the film, and he went no. And because he was really religious, he just went no. That's and again,
he found it as a calling. Jim Caviezel found it as a calling, didn't he?
Yeah.
He said,
yeah.
If I end
is
my
he saying,
career,
is he saying that? Is it part of his faith? I mean, as a film, right? Okay, I'm an atheist. It's not converted me.
Yeah.
As a film, I thought, wow, no one's ever told this story like this before. You know, I went to a C of E school. My mum was a Catholic. I've been to church loads of times and heard the stories and watched all the other films, Ben-Hur and all this sort of stuff. I know Ben-Hur's not strongly on it, but you know he's in there, isn't he? But I remember watching it and going, "Wow, that was a powerful film." And I went to my mum. I went, "Mum, you got to watch this." And she's a Christian, and she was like, "Oh my God, I've got to get Auntie Fran to watch this." Because
my mum could watch it. My mum could watch it. It was so because it was so truthful and powerful that my mum would not turn to tears because she knows, obviously, she knows.
That's the thing about it. It was making it real.
Because my mum's a devout Roman Catholic. She goes to mass every day, twice on a Sunday. So it was the pain of the suffering, knowing what Jesus went through.
Well, I love the idea of a cursed film, and I love the urban legend around them, and I love talking about it because like I've really enjoyed it. And I wish I could carry on talking about this for longer, but I've got a 12-week-old baby upstairs, so I've got to shoot. But I love the mystique around it, and I think for something to be genuinely cursed, what does that mean? Does it mean that there are foul energies at play? There are something religious entities at play. I don't know, but I don't know if I want to know. I think talking about it and debating about it, you still get those chills down the back of your spine thinking about something going wrong with the film because it's destined to go wrong, or it's destined to kill someone, or for a curse to kind of happen. I think I love the whole story around it, but the religious stuff, I don't know. I mean, I'm an atheist myself. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to disappoint Carlos, to be honest. But
Don't worry, because you both can repent soon. Don't worry.
Oh no!
Well, I'm planning to do that on my deathbed, but I don't know if that still counts.
I tell you what, Rick. After lockdown, we'll have to get together and we'll have to watch like the Poltergeist or Passion
There's
of
a couple
Christ.
of films that I've not seen, and Poltergeist is one of them. I've not actually seen it, so
I'll give
more
you
than up for that.
spoilers. Carlos, whatever we watch, you're not sitting around talking about it afterwards. You're going to go. Rick, me and Carlos would like to thank you for coming on the podcast. Is there anything you want to plug so our listener can find out more about you?
Yeah, do you know what? I'm going to share my Instagram because I do a bit of art on the side, and I am in the coming months starting my own kind of series of artworks. It'll make sense, I don't know, maybe by the time this is out or in a few weeks, but my Instagram handle is Viva Redman, so VIVA REDMAN.
Excellent.
And it's basically I've started a graffiti wall in my garage, and I'm starting to release videos of it, and I don't know. You might want to see it, you might not, but that's who I am. Viva Redman on Instagram.
Excellent, nice one. I think I checked that out when Carlos mentioned you as well. So listeners definitely need to go and check that out. And that's where, see if you can find the image where I got the royal seal of approval from.
Yeah, because that's another art thing. With this series of videos that I'm going to do about my art stuff, I am going to do one where I talk about art that I've already done. So the seal of approval thing will make sense.
Nice one. We'll leave that there for the listeners to go and check out. So hope you've enjoyed the podcast. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.
Thank you very much, Andy, and thank you very much, Carlos. It's been a pleasure. I've had a lot of fun, and I appreciate you asking me on. Cheers.